Yeah, here's something pretty mind-bending about, well, life itself. Every single amino acid in your body, the building blocks for proteins, they're all left-handed.
That's right.
And yet DNA and RNA, the actual genetic blueprints, they always spiral right-handed. It's this fundamental asymmetry.
A universal twist.
Exactly. And for ages, science has kind of shrugged, called it a mystery, maybe just a random roll of the dice way back when.
Fluke of early chemistry, yeah. That's often been the thinking.
But what if it's not random? What if this isn't just some cosmic oops, but actually a deep foundational blueprint for how life works, maybe even how reality works?
That's the core idea we're exploring.
Right. So that's our mission today on the deep dive, digging into this really revolutionary framework called motion theory. It reframes this biological handedness, this chirality, not as an accident, but as like an essential design principle.
It really turns the standard view on its head.
Totally. So get ready, because this deep dive, it really promises to shift how you see the world and maybe even yourself.
It's got some profound implications.
So let's zoom back in on this biological puzzle first. We're talking about a super strict universal handedness in life.
Absolute universal as far as we know.
Every protein block left-handed. The genetic code, DNA, RNA, always right-handed. It's just so precise. That's what seems so weird, Why not a mix? Why so rigidly one way or the other?
It is incredibly specific. And yeah, traditional biology has mostly just noted it as let's say, a curious anomaly, something we observe, but the why has been elusive. Motion theory, though, it comes at it differently. It proposes this asymmetry isn't an accident at all.
Right.
Instead, it suggests it's a core design principle, something actually woven into the very fabric of existence. Like life needed this asymmetry to even get going.
Whoa. Okay, that's a big claim. A core design principle woven into existence. So let's unpack that. What is motion theory, fundamentally? And how does it connect this handedness thing to, well, everything?
Right. So at its heart, motion theory basically says that everything in existence, and I really mean everything, matter, light, gravity, even time, maybe even thought, it's all fundamentally just structured rhythmic motion.
Structured motion, not like particles and forces in the way we usually think.
Well, think of particles not as tiny, solid balls, but as stable loops of motion. Like a persistent whirlpool in a river, it's made of moving water, but the pattern is stable.
Okay, a motion loop. I can picture that.
And energy, in this view, isn't some abstract quantity, but more like the intensity or the beat of these motion rhythms, how vibrant they are.
And things like charge or spin.
Motion artifacts, that's the term the theory uses. Think of the shadow cast by a spinning top. The shadow isn't the top, but it's a real measurable effect of its motion. Charge, spin, even time. The idea is they emerge from these underlying rhythms.
Wow, okay. So if everything is motion, how does handedness or chirality fit in? It's not just about a static shape anymore, right? What does left-handed or right-handed mean in motion terms?
Exactly. It's not static. It's about the directionality of these fundamental motion rhythms, the way they spin or spiral.
Directionality. Like clockwise versus counterclockwise.
Kind of, but with more implications.
Yeah.
A left-handed molecule in motion theory isn't just shaped left. It's a motion loop that tends to radiate or extend outward in a specific spiral. It's geared for interacting, pushing out.
Okay, reaching out. And right-handed.
Right-handed molecules are the opposite. They tend to compress or resolve inwardly. Their motion spirals inwards, designed more to hold, to store, to consolidate information or structure.
Huh. So it's dynamic, not just a fixed twist, but how the motion itself behaves outward versus inward.
Precisely. Dynamic sync behaviors. Chirality becomes the spin direction of the rhythm loop itself, like a tiny, ongoing vortex.
Like some molecules are extroverts reaching out, and others are introverts holding things in. That's a neat analogy.
It captures some of it, yeah, the externalizing versus internalizing nature.
And you have to remember, your whole body is made of billions of these things, these dynamic loops, all spinning in their specific ways. It's kind of incredible.
It really is. And under motion theory, this isn't just, an interesting detail. It has absolutely crucial functional consequences.
Okay, like what?
Well, those left-handed amino acids, they're the externalizers. Their outward spiraling motion makes them perfect for reaching out, binding with the environment, building structures, catalyzing reactions. They're the action molecules, in a sense.
Right. They build the proteins that do stuff.
Exactly. And the right-handed DNA, it's the internalizer. Its inward spiraling structure is perfectly designed to compress and store these rhythmic patterns, the genetic information, as stable, protected loops.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. One reaches out to interact, the other pulls in to store. It's like they're made for each other.
It's about complementary synchronization. That's the key idea. Life, as we know it, absolutely needs both of these opposing motion behaviors to work.
You need the interaction and you need the information storage.
You need the dynamic engagement with the world, mediated by the left-handed stuff, and you need the stable encoding and memory, handled by the right-handed stuff. It's a functional pairing.
It's not just convenient, it's essential, like two gears meshing perfectly.
Exactly. This perfect pairing, this dance, is fundamental for all the complex processes of life. Without this balance of outward and inward motion, you arguably couldn't have the complexity we see.
Okay. This complementarity is clicking for me, but it still begs the question, why this specific setup? Why left for amino acids, right, for DNA? How did the universe, or early life, choose this particular twist? Let's get into the origin story.
Right, the genesis question. According to motion theory, if you go way back to the early universe, you have this sort of primordial soup of motion energy.
Chaos, basically.
Pretty much. And out of that chaos, stable motion loops started to form to collapse into persistent patterns. But which patterns stabilized wasn't entirely random.
Ah, okay, so what influenced it?
Things the theory calls sync gradients and phase density. Basically, imagine waves interfering. Some patterns reinforce each other and become stable, others cancel out. Sync gradients are like the directional flow of the synchronization energy, and phase density is about how coherent the rhythms are in a particular region of space.
So some twists, some chiral orientations just happen to sync up better and become more stable in those early conditions.
That's the idea. And for whatever reason, in our corner of the universe, or perhaps universally, the conditions favored the stabilization of left-handed orientations for the types of loops that would become amino acids.
Wow. So once that happened, once the left-handed amino acids became the stable option,
it created a cascading effect. The rest of the developing biological system essentially had to adapt to that initial choice. It evolved to complement the left-handed amino acids.
So DNA becoming right-handed wasn't a separate coin flip.
No, not according to this theory. It was more like motion logic adapting to preserve harmony. The system needed an inward spiraling component to balance the outward spiraling amino acids, and the right-handed twist provided that stable complementary function.
That's fascinating. So the asymmetry itself becomes a driver. Once you have one twist locked in, the whole system builds around it recursively.
Exactly. Asymmetry becomes a recursive structure. The initial preference for one twist dictates the necessary complementary twist, and that pairing allows for more complex structures to build upon that foundation layer after layer.
You mentioned this idea of a ladder of recursive structures.
Yeah.
Could you walk us through that from atoms up to, well, us?
Sure. So think of an atom as a basic sync loop, maybe with its own subtle proto-chirality. Molecules formed from these atoms inherit and amplify that chirality. Left-handed amino acids link up. Then a protein, made of these long chains, isn't just one loop. It becomes a complex system of nested motion loops. Imagine intricate folded structures where different rhythmic patterns interact and influence each other. It's a whole hierarchy of motion.
Nested loops, like dances within dances.
Yeah, something like that. And then DNA, the right-handed double helix, acts as this incredibly stable, higher-level information spiral, compressing and archiving the blueprints for all those protein dances.
And this keeps scaling up.
All the way, cells, tissues, organs. Eventually, you get to the brain. Motion theory views the brain as essentially the ultimate rhythmic feedback system. Billions of neurons firing in complex, synchronized patterns, processing, storing, generating information, all built on these fundamental, nested, chiral motion loops.
So our thoughts, consciousness, that's emerging from this cascade of rhythmic motion.
That's the implication. Thought, memory, awareness. They could be the highest level echo, the most complex expression of these recursive asymmetric motion patterns that started with subatomic loops.
That is profound. It really reframes what it means to be.
Yeah, and it leads to that really striking quote from the source material, which is worth repeating. You think because your proteins spin one way and your DNA spins the other.
Wow. Just lays it out there. Our very consciousness linked to this fundamental spin balance.
It suggests thinking isn't just chemical signals, but a result of this deep physical dynamic asymmetry, which naturally raises a big question.
Right. If this is so fundamental, what about elsewhere? If we find life on Mars or, orbiting Proxima Centauri, would it also have left-handed amino acids and right-handed DNA?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Motion theory actually makes a prediction here.
Okay.
It predicts that while the specific direction might be flipped, maybe alien life would have right-handed amino acids and left-handed DNA. Any stable, complex life system anywhere will still use counter-spiraling chirality. It will still have this fundamental opposition.
So the principle remains, even if the specific left or right choice is different.
Exactly. The overarching principle is that any stable system capable of complexity and recursion, capable of storing information and interacting dynamically, must have these opposing complementary rhythms to sustain itself.
It needs that balance, that push and pull.
Yes. The specific twist might be a frozen accident of local conditions, but the need for opposing twists, for chirality balance, that's universal according to this framework. It's like a fundamental rule for building complexity out of motion.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway today is that life's handedness, this chirality, wasn't just biology flipping a cosmic coin.
Not at all.
It seems it followed a deeper path, one dictated by motion harmony, a fundamental principle of how stable structures form and interact in the universe. It wasn't an accident. It was, in a way, inevitable.
That's the core message of motion theory on this topic. Chirality isn't some quirky chemical detail. It's, and I'm quoting again, the universe resolving itself into recursion-compatible sync loops. It's how the universe builds things that can last and become complex.
Recursion-compatible sync loops. That phrase really sticks. And it leads to a final thought for everyone listening. You are made of these loops. Billions upon billions, all spinning in this perfect asymmetric balance, the left-handed reaching out, the right-handed holding within. And because of that intricate dance, well, you are motion, thinking about motion.
It's a powerful idea to sit with.
It really is.
Yeah.
Maybe consider this. What other things we call accidents or coincidences in the universe might actually be when seen through this lens of motion theory? Elegant, profound blueprints. Essential features of a reality built fundamentally from rhythm and spin. Makes you wonder,